You know TikTok. A billion people do. The sounds, the dances, the 6-second loops you watch until 3 in the morning. But here's something almost nobody remembers. The app that invented all of it, the loops, the sounds, the phrase "do it for the Vine," was already dead and buried before TikTok ever took its first breath. Its name was Vine. At its peak, 200 million people opened it every month. It played 1.5 billion looping videos a day. It took ordinary teenagers filming in their bedrooms and turned them into some of the most famous people on the planet. Logan Paul, King Bach, Lele Pons, David Dobrik, names that still print money today, all built 6 seconds at a time. And then, in October of 2016, it simply switched off. Everyone will tell you TikTok killed Vine. But check the timeline, and that story falls apart, because when Vine died, TikTok didn't even exist yet. This is Flatline. Gloves on. 6 seconds is all Vine ever gave you. Give me 16 minutes, and I'll show you who actually stopped its heart. Tonight we open up Vine. And I promise you the killer is not the one the headlines named. First, you have to understand how enormous Vine was, because it's easy to remember it as a novelty. It wasn't. In January 2013, 3 guys launched an app built on one beautifully simple idea. A video that lasts exactly 6 seconds and then loops forever. That's it. 6 seconds. The constraint was the genius. It forced you to be funny, or clever, or amazing, right now, with no room to waste. Within 3 months, Vine was the #1 free app in the entire iPhone App Store. It became a language. A whole generation started talking in Vine quotes. Do it for the Vine. What are those? Comedy, magic tricks, tiny perfect skits, dances. The format we now think of as TikTok was all invented here first. And it minted stars at a speed the world had never seen. A kid named King Bach became the single most followed person on the entire platform, with over 16 million followers off 6-second clips. These creators weren't just popular, they were an economy. Brands paid them tens of thousands of dollars for a single Vine. They were driving billions of views. Vine wasn't a toy. Vine was a goldmine, sitting in the palm of your hand. So how does a goldmine like that vanish overnight? Ask most people, and you'll get one answer: TikTok. Or maybe Instagram. Or Snapchat. The story goes that a bigger, better app came along, everyone's attention moved on, and poor little Vine just couldn't compete. It's tidy. It's obvious. And it's wrong. Starting with a timeline. Twitter announced it was killing Vine in October 2016. TikTok didn't even launch outside of China until later, and didn't truly explode in the West until 2018, a year and a half after Vine was already a corpse. You cannot be murdered by something that hasn't been born yet. So if it wasn't TikTok, and it wasn't a competitor that killed Vine while it was still healthy, then what happened? To find the killer, you don't look at the rivals. You look at the family. Because Vine wasn't an independent company that lost a fight. Vine had an owner. And the owner is the one holding the knife. Here's the fact that reframes everything. Vine did not build itself up and then get bored at its peak. Vine was bought by Twitter in October 2012 for around $30 million before it had even launched to the public. Think about that. From the very first day a single person used Vine, it already belonged to Twitter. Twitter owned the whole thing, start to finish. And Twitter never had the faintest idea what to do with it. Here is the single fatal decision, the one that killed it. Twitter never built a way for Vine's creators to make money. None. Zero. Over on YouTube, stars earned a cut of the ad revenue their videos generated. That's how YouTube grew a loyal army of full-time creators. Instagram and Snapchat rolled out the red carpet and threw money and features at the biggest names to lure them over. And Vine handed its stars nothing. The people generating those billions of loops, the entire reason anyone opened the app, could not earn a single cent from the thing they had built. Twitter had adopted a superstar kid and then refused to feed it. And the stars noticed. In the middle of 2016, the biggest creators on Vine did something extraordinary. Around 18 of the platform's top stars, people whose faces you would recognize, banded together in secret and walked into a meeting with Vine's leadership with a simple proposal. Pay us. Reportedly about $1.2 million each, plus some changes to fix the app, in exchange for keeping their content and their audiences on the platform. It was a bargain. These were the geese laying every golden egg Vine had. And Vine's leadership said no. So they left. They took their millions of followers and they walked to YouTube, to Instagram, to Snapchat. And once the biggest stars go dark, the audience follows them out the door. By early 2016, over half of Vine's most followed accounts had stopped posting or deleted themselves entirely. The garden was being abandoned by the very people who grew it, because the owner would not spend $1 to keep them. Meanwhile, Twitter itself was a mess, bleeding money, laying off 9% of its staff, desperate for a buyer of its own. And to a company in that kind of panic, Vine wasn't a treasure to protect. It was a line item to cut. So let's call the time of death. On the 27th of October, 2016, Twitter announced it was discontinuing Vine. No grand strategy, no rescue, just a corporate blog post. One of Vine's own co-founders, watching the app he built get switched off, tweeted 3 words that should be tattooed on every founder's arm: "Don't sell your company." Twitter then tried to quietly offload Vine to other bidders, reportedly shopping it around for about $10 million, a third of what it paid, and couldn't close a real deal. So it just turned off the lights. Uploads were killed. The app was reduced to a stub. And a platform that 200 million people had loved was scraped into an archive and left to rot. Cause of death, the headline said, was competition. But there was no competitor in the room when the plug was pulled. There was only the owner, and now the part that turns this from a tragedy into a farce. Because the idea did not die. Someone else picked up the exact blueprint Vine had drawn, short, looping, sound-driven videos made by ordinary people, and built it into one of the most valuable companies on the face of the earth. TikTok is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, every one of them is running Vine's playbook, the one Twitter threw in the bin. Vine didn't lose the race. Vine invented the race, ran out to a mile-long lead, and then its owner walked onto the track and shot it, seconds before the prize money arrived. Now for the finding, the line I'd actually write on the certificate. It does not say competition. Cross that out. What killed Vine was neglect. It was owned by a company that saw 200 million users and a brand new art form, and could not be bothered to build a business around it, or to pay the people who made it worth anything. Vine didn't go viral and burn out. It didn't lose to a better product. It was starved to death, deliberately and cheaply, by the one company on earth that was supposed to protect it. Vine got pruned by its own gardener. So here's the scar to keep. Be very careful who owns the thing you love, and be even more careful if you're the one building the value on someone else's land. When the people who create all the worth get paid none of it, they will leave, and a platform without its creators is just an empty building with the lights on. A company that treats its greatest asset as a cost to be trimmed will always, eventually trim it. We've got a whole ward of them now. Kodak clutched its film. Nokia married its keyboard. Toys R Us got bled dry by its owners. MySpace rented out its own crowd. Sears got handed to a mad scientist. WeWork was a landlord in a prophet's clothing. And Vine was a superstar kid, adopted by a family that refused to feed it, left to starve in a mansion, 6 seconds at a time, while a stranger picked up its lottery ticket and cashed it for billions. Do it for the Vine. See you in the next autopsy.